Don't compare yourself to anybody. Comparison is the number one killer.
I focus mainly on business, so we're mainly managing multiple businesses in TZ.
Get to know your purpose, the very reason why you were created, the very reason why you exist. Get to know why you are here, and then do it.
Accept where you are. Let's not get into the reasons as to where you are and why you are where you are. Accept that this is where we are at the end of the day. And just find the solution for it. Everything is in your hands.
Welcome to our very wonderful podcast, and this is Life with Jonathan and Zain. My name is Jonathan Dali. My main task is to build people and equip leaders. And here's my brother Zain. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I'm Zain. I focus mainly on business, so we're mainly managing multiple businesses in TZ.
Wonderful. So let's talk about life. We're going to have a series of questions, a series of discussions concerning life. And you know what? Life is meant to be lived. A lot of times we focus on finding life, finding the meaning of life, chasing life, forgetting to live. And so we are going to answer a few questions to help you maximize every moment that you have in life. So Zain, I have a question for you. What would you say is your main driver for life? Why? What is the reason for your existence? Why do you wake up in the morning and do what you do?
Purpose is the most important thing.
Okay.
When you're deciding what to do in life, the reason why you do those things is very, very important. So a person without purpose, they have no drive.
The person without purpose
will not have any drive.
Okay.
You must have a purpose.
Okay. And so what would you say purpose is, and how can someone sort of discover that?
Well, purpose is very subjective, right? I mean, the reasons why we choose to do certain things is formed by multiple experiences we may have in our lives. A lot of people, their purpose, for example, is, let's say in business, people want financial gains as a purpose. So purpose, it differs from person to person.
Okay.
And I think they're also very much shaped on our upbringing and on how we experience things as children, for example. So if we experienced, for example, not having very much wealth, then our whole life becomes about getting that wealth or compensating for what we didn't have. So in most cases, you see purpose as a derivative of what we didn't have as a child, right?
Interesting. You know, I was listening to Dr. Miles Monroe one time, and he said, without purpose, abuse is inevitable. And so it made me reflect. If the purpose of something is not known, you can literally use that thing for anything. For example, you see, this is a tablet, right? And this tablet was created for a reason. But if the purpose of this tablet is not known, you can literally use this tablet to smack somebody in the head,
100%.
right? And then that's abuse. So even in life, just to add on to what you're saying, I think it is very important to understand the meaning, the purpose of our existence. And so I was just wondering, how did you discover your purpose?
Well, actually, that's an interesting question. The truth is, you see, I think I've been lucky to have many opportunities in life, and I've had a lot of freedom to choose to do different things and to try to do different things. And I think a lot of people don't have the same opportunities.
I see.
I've been very appreciative of that. And so my purpose, for example, is to give people opportunities and things like education and healthcare, things that they may not have. That's my general purpose.
All right.
Because I feel as though that's something that will help, it will make a difference. So for me to discover my purpose, it was actually when I was around 18. We actually found, I don't know if you actually know this, but we actually found a tumor in my knee.
Oh, really?
At the time, the doctors in my country, Mauritius, had said that it was cancerous. So when you're 18 and then that sort of thing comes to you, you have to immediately start to, let's say, rush and think, okay, well, this might be the end now, which is a very dark way of looking at things, but I guess that's what you're used to seeing. So I had to quickly start thinking like, okay, so what do I want to do in life? Like, what's my purpose in life? You know, like what's the goals that I want to achieve and why do I want to achieve them? So I had to start thinking about those things in the span of 10 days before we went for an operation outside of Mauritius. Thankfully, I'm fine, right? There's nothing wrong.
Right.
But in those 10 days, I found my parents reacting to that information very emotionally. For them, they were very obviously upset and naturally very upset about it. But for me, I couldn't emote. I don't understand what it was, but I just couldn't emote. I literally, the only thing I did was take a ball, throw it against the wall and catch it and start asking myself questions and start trying to rationalize something that is normally quite irrational or unexpected, right? For somebody, especially at that age. So that's where I found that, okay, my time is finite. I think it's something we all know, but it's not something that we think of on a day-to-day basis. So at that time in my life, I already understood that time is running out. And so it put this fire in me to try and do as much as I can because I don't know how much time I may or may not have. Now, that assisted me a lot in trying to, let's say, fast track to meaning. Right, and to understand the meaning and to understand the purpose and why I wake up in the morning. The job that I work is a very difficult job, and I think if anybody's in the position that I'm in, if you're doing it for yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to sustain that because you may give up. You may think, okay, I don't need it, it's okay. Right? I don't need, let's say, more finances. But if your purpose is outside of yourself, you'll never give up. Like if your purpose is your family, right, then you're never going to stop fighting for your family because you truly believe that I need to do what I can to give them what I feel that they want. But if you're doing it for yourself, you can always let go of that.
Truly.
So I always advise people when they are, some people ask me about, you know, how do I start off in business? And I always tell them the first thing you need to identify, even if it's before a business, is why do you want to do this? Do you want to do this business because you feel like this is something that people are doing, they're opening businesses and whatever it is, or you see success on Instagram and this is what success means to you? Like, what is the reason? And some people answer, well, no, I just want to be financially free. And so I asked them mostly, so I said, so let's say you're financially free now, what's next for you? And that's where they struggle. They can't answer that question. So I think my advice is usually to focus on things like fulfillment and things that will help you feel fulfilled. So for example, my purpose is on fulfillment. It's less on finances and more on fulfillment. Because I think money is a very dangerous thing.
Money is a very dangerous
thing. It's a very dangerous thing.
Is it a good thing?
If you control money, it's okay. It's a tool.
Okay.
If money controls you, it's a very bad thing. Because if today I have and I'm one person and tomorrow I don't have and I'm a different person, then that money really controlled me. That money was part of who I am. And we should not make these things part of who we are because then it changes the way that you think and the way that you operate and the reasons for you operating. So it's really about you and yourself. And it's really about, well, who am I with money and who am I without money? And if you see that there's a difference, then maybe that money is not a good thing for you, you know?
I see. Quite interesting. I'm sure somebody watching and listening to you would be able to understand what exactly you mean. I'm reminded of a year, many years ago, actually. I was in a certain country in Asia, and I was involved in a beauty pageant in Manhunt. And so we were many people, right? And we had judges. So my turn came and they were asking me a question. So this was the question they asked me. So we were about 5 of us. So we asked the same question. But when we were asked, if let's say it's your turn to be asked the question, you know, the rest of us would have headsets with loud music so that you don't hear the answer. So my turn came and I was asked this question. What is success? This is like 15 years ago, bruh. What is success? And so here's the answer I gave. And so after I shared with you, I'm going to also ask to see your views. What do you define and how do you define the success? So I read it somewhere and I said, in fact, it was my dad who told me, success is where opportunity meets preparation. Opportunity meets preparation. And this is exactly how I answered it. And of course, I elaborated a little bit more. But from your perspective, what and how do you define success?
I think it's a very complicated question in the sense that I think the traditional way of measuring success is either an achievement or it's in status or it's in, as I said previously, finances.
Material things that we see.
Yeah, but I think for me, success is if I personally feel as though, let's say, the business has hit the objectives that it's hit, or let's say the item that I'm doing has gone according to plan, then for me, that's a successful thing. If I can sleep at night, for example, comfortably, and I don't have a million things running in my head or a million questions, then for me, that's a successful day. It might not be the end of that goal. But yeah, I guess it's a little bit of a complicated question to answer.
Right.
What is success? I do like your answer, I have to say that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very complicated thing. I guess success is subjective. It's tied onto your purpose, perhaps.
Exactly. I love that. That's powerful. That's powerful because success could mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
And I guess to be successful, you need to define what success means to you.
100%.
Because, for example, in Tanzania, someone moving from a village to a suburb, that could mean success.
For sure.
Someone buying a car, that could mean success. Someone accomplishing a business deal, that could mean success. And so that leads me to ask this question that I've been pondering for a while. And I sort of termed it my own phrase. It won't make sense, but it's my own phrase. It's called the Mama Uche syndrome, right? Okay. So, or you can call it Mama John, whatever. Okay. So let me explain to you. So in our African cultures, right? Tanzanian, I would say, and maybe some other parts of the continent. When we were young, we went to school. And so during the holidays, we come home and our parents would compare us to the neighbors' kids, right? Why are you not like Zayn, right? Zayn is, excelling in his studies. Zayn is doing this, Zayn is doing that. And so we grew up feeling some sort of insecure in our accomplishments, inferior. And so we somehow were pushed to study the things we never wanted to study, simply because John is studying something, so you should also do engineering like John. You should take biology like, so and so. And so at the end of the day, we end up not living our own lives, right? Regrets come much later. So my question to you is, are you really living your own life? Or perhaps the life other people expected of you?
I think that's a very deep question, and I fully understand the example that you've given me, because I think most people would have faced this sort of comparison in that when you bring in, for example, grades, and it may not be the top grade, it's like, well, why didn't you get the top grade? Because so-and-so person has. And so that becomes, let's say, a barometer of success for you as a child. It's how good is everyone doing and can I do better? So I think it's a very dangerous thing, especially for a child who's still developing, because they then spend their lives performing for an audience that is the one that was compared to before. So for example, now, let's say in business, if I'm doing what I'm doing, let's say I might not be doing it for myself, right? I might not be doing it because of my purpose and because of whatever reasons I set out. I might actually be doing it because somebody said I can't. But now why let that person live, for example, rent-free in our minds and allow us to do the things that we need to do? I really think it's a very dangerous thing.
Interesting.
And it's something that we have to be very careful of, because you should understand that even when you've done that thing that you're planning on doing, that person's not even going to know.
Yeah.
You've done it because you remember that anger and that fuel that you had in your mind. You've showed up every day because, you had their face in your mind. But Absolutely. At the end of the day, they may not be even aware of what it is that you've done. So you really should understand that the person that you're performing for should be yourself, which again goes back to point number one, the purpose aspect. In the sense that your purpose is what should drive you forward, not your past.
I'm telling you. I like that. Your purpose should drive you, not your past.
Yeah.
Quick question. Have you ever failed?
Every day.
Really?
Every day, yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Do you think failure is fatal?
No.
Okay.
This is something that I find very difficult to advise other people, but this is something that I try and live by as much as possible. Not because it's something that I'm trying to force into myself, but it's something that's innate to me, right? It's something that I've always sort of followed. I try my best to cut emotions out of my head,
I see.
especially when I'm working, for example, because if I'm emotionally invested in something, then if it doesn't work out, then I'll be defeated. I have this soldier mentality, which is what I push most people to do. You have to think of things as a soldier, right? When your mission is complete, act first, do whatever you have to do, and emote later. If you want to emote, do it later. Most often people have an issue and they spend so much time thinking about what if I do that. But the people who act, you actually solve the problem. And the emotion is actually going to really, really hurt you. It's very difficult. I'll draw you an example, which maybe you may
Sure.
know from some of your friends. You may have somebody who's opened a business. It's their only business, and it's not doing well, and they refuse to let go. And when you ask them, say, yeah, but I opened this. There was a time it was successful. I opened this with my blood, sweat, and tears. I spent this much time in it. Okay, I get it. But if it's not working, it's not working.
It's not working.
And you don't know when to let go because now you've emotionally tied yourself to that situation. So you really have to cut your emotions out in some cases because it will stop you from being successful. If you look at things emotionally, you'll not be able to hit that purpose.
I like that. Cut your emotions out of certain things. Now, the real question now for someone who is watching and listening would be, yo, Zain, how do I practically cut my emotions?
It's very difficult. Emotions are being emotionally intelligent is a very important thing.
Yeah, true.
But you need to know when to be emotional and when to be logical, for example.
Yeah.
Because your brain operates on those two
I like that.
ends of the spectrum, right? There's a time to be logical and there's a time to be emotional. With your wife, with your kids, with your family, be emotional, do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With your staff, with your team, be emotional. Give them what they need, right? Emotionally. But also be very logical when it comes to doing the things that are on your table, your tasks, for example. Because let's say as a leader, you have to make a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
If you make emotional decisions, it's not the right time for that.
It's not the right time.
If you're making a decision for your team, for example, something that's more, let's say, part of HR or let's say human resources or anything like a birthday or something, that's fine. Act emotionally. It will show them that you're emotionally intelligent enough to separate logic and emotion.
I see.
Right?
I see.
But when it comes to getting your own tasks done, your own planning done, you cannot think emotionally. It's a very dangerous trap.
Quite interesting. So one of the, as a trainer and a coach, one of the things I love, or one of the subjects I love teaching leaders is emotional intelligence. And it's one of my favorites actually, because I have come to realize a human being is, like you said, I've even mentioned that in my book, logical and emotional, right? And somehow I believe three things that comprise a human being: the body, the soul, and the spirit, right? The soul is where you get your will, your mind, and your emotions. And a lot of leaders fail to make informed decisions because of failure to separate logic and emotions. So the reason I asked you that question is because someone who is listening wanted to find out, practically, I really want to cut off the emotions from making such, decisions, but how do I do it? And so I'm glad you even mentioned it. So I'm sure if you're watching, there are certain decisions, tough decisions, you cannot rely on your emotions. You have to be logical and make those decisions. So Zain, when we were discussing off the camera, we were talking a little bit about failure, and you had something to say. So let me put it this way. Someone has been failing and failing and failing, and they're about to give up. What will be your advice to them?
Yeah. It's going to sound very cheesy, but there is very much something that you must learn from. and you have to take it forward with you. If you don't learn from it, then that failure was a waste of your time. You should never look at things as a failure. It's a lesson.
So failures are lessons.
100%. Failure
Right.
is a lesson. It may be a battle scar in some pieces, but it's like you should wear it with honor because it still means that you tried and that you did the best that you could.
Interesting. I'm reminded of this guy, Thomas Edison, if you've heard of him.
I did.
Yeah, he did like 999 times, if the number is correct. And then the 1000th time, that's when he discovered light. So interesting. So listen, failures are lessons. So if you keep on failing, learn from your failures so that you can improve and become better and better each day. Let's talk about success again. I'm bringing back to that conversation. And the reason is because much of what we're doing, we want to be successful. Even, having this podcast, nobody wants to fail, right? So we really want that success. And earlier on, we sort of defined what success is, and it's dependent on a person. Now, just a quick question. Can you be successful and be unhappy? What do you think?
100%.
Okay.
Because again, success, if we assume that success is tied now to purpose, if your purpose is incorrect, for example, your purpose is based on other people or external factors to yourself, then it means that even when you've achieved that success, you'll still
be
not
unhappy.
feel happy, or you still may not feel that
Fulfilled.
fulfilled, I suppose is the best way.
I see.
So yes, 100%. And that's why your purpose needs to be very clearly determined, because at the end of the day, achievement and meaning are very different currencies.
Sure.
Right?
Interesting. So the presence of social media, we know technology has advanced tremendously. And, social media is very much prevalent, in our communities. Let's talk about the need for validation, So first of all, because of that influence and the impact of social media, a lot of people become fake. So they have two personalities. You have the real personality and you have the social media personality. Who is Zayn when nobody's watching?
That's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
I like to think, to be honest with you, that I'm a fairly open book in the sense that what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
I'm a very traditional, old school kind of guy.
Okay.
So that means that I'm not going to show a different face online. But with that being said, I'm very, very, very bad at social media. As you know,
That we know.
yeah, as you know, my team manages that fully. So I have a complete detachment to what happens there. In fact, the main person that's managing it, one of my closest friends and business partner, when we decided that we're going to go ahead with this and you start managing my page, he said in one condition, you have no right to agree or disagree as to what goes up there, how it goes up there, when it goes up there. So that was the only thing. And I said, okay, sure thing, let's go for it.
Interesting.
But social media is a very dangerous thing. I really think if you're not wise enough to what social media is, it becomes a very dangerous thing for your mind, because you start to see things online and you start to associate different, let's say, virtues with what you see online. For example, somebody may be, wealthy and flaunting that online, and you start to see that now as, oh, I've got to be like this so I can also show other people. Because social media, you have to remember, at the end of the day, you're choosing what to put out there.
Yeah, true.
And so I'm not going to put a bad photo of myself.
Yeah,
out,
absolutely.
right?
I'm not going to put my struggles.
100%. And so
I hear you.
It becomes one of these places where you go and you just see, let's say, people and the best part of those people. And so you start asking yourself, like, hey, why am I not happy? And you start going back to that and you start looking, well, this guy has a boat, this guy has a car, this guy has a bike, but you start forgetting about what you've actually got yourself, and you start now comparing the differences. And then you start trying to compete by putting your own stuff out there, and then you don't get as much engagement, and then you start feeling bad about it. So you really have to have this detachment when it comes to social media, and understanding what it is actually and what the need is for social media. For example, if you want to keep in touch with your friends, if you want to see what your friends are up to, your friends given birth, great, be in touch with your friends.
True.
But be very careful to stop this mindset of comparing. It's very easy. As you mentioned earlier, we are compared from a young age to different people. And that is still going to be inside of you. As soon as you're an adult, you'll start also comparing. You really have to stop that. The only person that you should compare yourself with today is the person that you were yesterday.
Yeah, true.
That should be your
better version of yourself.
If I'm better today than I was yesterday, then that's a successful day. Let's take it a step at a time. You know, let's not look 10 years down the line. Let's look at today and tomorrow.
True that. You know, just to add to what you said, two things I can add there. Number one, I'm adding to what you said, comparison. Comparison is a killer. You know, you look at people, you know, posting their new jobs, posting their spouses, kids, you know, putting up their successes, they've bought this, they've traveled, and you sort of feel like I'm late. I'm not there yet. And so every time I speak to people, I give them this scenario. Take, for example, you're traveling to Zanzibar, and I'm traveling to Dubai, right? We're both using a flight. It will take you 15 minutes from Dar es Salaam to Zanzibar, but it's going to take me 6 hours from Dar es Salaam to Dubai. We're all using a flight. We all go to the airport. But it will be absurd if you get to Zanzibar and you begin to laugh at me. I've already arrived. Look at Jonathan, he's still traveling. And peradventure, there is internet on board. I now open Instagram and I see you in Zanzibar at the beach, luxurious hotel, enjoying your best life. And I'm beginning to blame myself. Why am I not there yet? Why have I not arrived? Little do I know that I'm actually traveling further than you. I'm going to an international country. My journey is longer than yours. There's a lot of varieties there. So I always tell people, listen, we travel, our journeys are different. Mine is not yours. The pace to which I'm traveling is not yours. And speaking of that, I'm reminded that book, I forgot the name, you know, Run Your Own Race, something like that, Maintain Your Pace, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think for us as human beings, I think it is very important to look at ourselves intrinsically, look at our purposes, what is our journey, and then compete with ourselves. Instead of competing with you, I should compete with myself. I must, like you said, be better, a better Jonathan than I was 5 years ago.
100%.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is the need for validation. You know, I train leaders and I coach people around the world. And there are places I go to, I choose to keep quiet. You know why? Because if you don't, if you're a doctor and I don't salute you as Dr. Zain or Professor Zain or maybe Sheikh or Pastor or so-and-so, somehow people feel you're disrespecting me. So you come to find out that we have sort of tied our, you know, our humanity, our true value to titles. So if I don't call you Zain, the managing director, or Zain, the CEO, you know, if I don't put that attachment, it feels like I'm disrespecting you. And so I wanted you to, if you can share, why do you think there is that need for validation?
Honestly, deep insecurities.
Insecurities.
I'm very glad you mentioned this because when I was preparing my notes, I actually touched into this.
All right, that's good.
And the word that I used is entitlement, because I feel like people are entitled to things nowadays. You may see, for example, videos online and this person is in a confrontation with somebody else and their response is, "Do you know who I am?"
Yes.
And it's like, no. You know, and it's at the same time, it's why should that matter?
Yeah, why should that matter?
Why do we use titles and finances and status as a bar of comparison? Why don't we use, like, for example, good behavior? Like, we know about the top 10 richest people in the world. We know about, let's say, the biggest innovators and the successful businesses or whatever it is. Do we know about the top 10 philanthropists in the world, for example? Or do you know, for example, about the top 10 best people in the world? Again, you can't measure that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We don't give credit to people who try and do the right thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably why people have this entitlement, because they associate that with worth. But at the end of the day, that usually means that without those titles, as I said earlier, without those titles and without that money, for example, you're a different person because your value is now tied to that. But if your value is tied to being a good person, for example, nothing can take that away from you. And that's the most important thing, you know?
Interesting. Speaking of which, let's jump a little bit and talk about some of these cultures and traditions. We were having a conversation earlier, and you mentioned a scenario that happened this morning. Somebody sort of hit your mirror and just decided to take off. When you chased after them, then they stopped. And then the first thing that came out of their mouth was not an apology, was a justification. Yeah. Your mirror is not even broken. What are you talking about? Okay, so I was perplexed. But again, I guess it's, for lack of a better word, it's human nature. Maybe naturally we're selfish, or maybe naturally we are not accountable to our actions. I want you to talk a little bit about that. What do you think could be the issue?
Well, you know what? I really don't know myself what the issue is, but I feel as though now it costs so much for one person to say, you know what, I made a mistake. It's so difficult for people to say that, and that's really bad. You should be really good at saying, hey, I did this mistake, I did that mistake, because ultimately that benefits yourself. If you're able to recognize a pattern of, let's say, negative behavior, and if you're able to identify things that are not so good, for example, then it means that you're also able to identify them within your own life, areas where you've made mistakes, and it means that you accept that there's a change that I need to make in order to hit this bar that I'm sort of aiming for within myself, or that I've set within myself. And so again, I don't know where it comes from, and I think that will probably be a 15-hour podcast. But you know, just coming back to a previous point that you said in relation to status again, I'd like to share a story that happened about 2 weeks ago, perhaps. So I was sitting outside of my office in the head office, and I was just waiting for a little bit, catching some air and whatever it is. And somebody approaches me. One of the teammates approaches me and says, "Hey, boss, what are you doing sitting here on this chair?" And I said, "What do you mean?" It's like, "This chair is not for people like you; it's for people like me." And this is an absolute true story. So now I asked him, "So what do you mean, people like you and people like me?" And he said, "Well, you are the boss. You know, you can't be sitting out here where everybody else sits." And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Well, it's not how it is. You know what I mean?" And I stopped him and I said to him, "First of all, I don't like that mindset that I should be here and you should be here. I really don't like that, because ultimately we're all the same." So I actually asked him. I told him, like, "Listen, if I cut my hand and if I cut your hand, what's the difference between us on the inside?" He said, "Nothing." And I asked him, "How old are you?" And he said, he's 83 years old. And I said, "My grandfather is exactly the same age like you." He's like, "Yeah, I know." And I said, "So I should be listening to you, not the other way around. You have so much more experience on me. So, you know, there's no divide." And I really hope he got the message that we're all on the same level. And I mentioned to him that titles don't divide us, or whatever it is. I understand that that's a pact kind of thing, because there's a lot of complexities that go with that. But at the same time, inherently, we should actually start seeing human beings as our equals, because that's what everybody is at the end of the day. You're born with absolutely nothing, and you'll leave the world with absolutely nothing. I can't take my titles with me to the next world. I can't go, for example, heaven or hell or whatever you want to say. I can't go there as, "Hey, I'm the director here," and that's not going to work. We're all going to be the same. We're all going to be judged on the same parameters, for example. And so at the same time, we can't really have this case in the world where those things define who we are, because ultimately you can be with and without them.
True. In one of the holy books, the Bible, there's a story of a very rich man who used to live in the land of Uz, right? His name was Job. So Cut the long story short, he had literally everything. He was wealthy. And then one day, God decides to take his protection off him. And then he was hit by every one of his cattle died, his family, his kids, like he lost everything, including his own health. He developed boils all over. And so he was only left with his wife. And the wife was like, do you still believe in this God? Just curse him so that you die. And so the guy refused. And so just to tie to what you're saying, I think it is high time, as human beings, not to tie our, values and who we are to the accomplishments, to the titles, to all of these things. And then at the end of almost the end of his life, this guy made a very profound statement that is being used to date during burial ceremonies and all that. And he said, from dust you came, and to dust you shall go back. And every time I ponder on that, I'm just reminded that, what, all these cars, all these accolades, all these titles and the fame, they're good, but they are but for a moment.
They mean nothing.
They mean nothing, literally. They mean nothing. That's the word.
Nothing.
Absolutely. It's just vanity. Tying to that, I wanted us to discuss on something. Sometimes, in life, we're human beings. You're in business. You've been in business for a while. There are certain days that you have who are competitors, however you call them, competitors, complementers, collaborators. But there are certain days you see these guys making big moves, more than you do, even faster, ordering, larger fleets, right? Doing massive stuff. And you're there and you're thinking, man, I'm not moving. I gotta do this. How do you sort of separate, the need to grow like in business and the need to compete? Like it's kind of like a very thin line, you understand? So yeah. So how do you navigate that?
I think the first thing to understand is somebody else's success is not taking away from your success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, when they see other people do well and they see success in other businesses, be it in the same industry or not, they feel hurt, like, hey, why wasn't it me, But I think your attitude should be one that it's good, may you get more success.
I see.
Like, it may this business grow further and further for you. May you hit the objectives that you hit. If that's the mentality and the mindset that you have, then at the end of the day, if you're satisfied with what you have, then you're never going to really have that competitiveness in your head, which will allow you to have a clear mind to then decide the next steps. For example, if we're talking about a game of market share in relation to what cars are on the road or whatever it is, at the end of the day, if you truly believe in your business plan and you truly see, for example, what's happening on a day-to-day basis and make decisions that influence that success, right? Then you should be solid. But your bar of comparison should never really be somebody else's success. At the end of the day, you should be happy for yours. You should wish for more success for other people in the market.
Interesting.
Because as a whole, like, again, we go back to the purpose once more. If I open a company today, it means I have to bring people in, right? Which means I'm supporting, let's say, 10 people who now have livelihood, right? I'm boosting the economy. I may be bringing something different to the market that's not there, right? Which means I'm benefiting my local community as well as my country and whatever it is. Like, let's focus on the benefits that we do.
Interesting. Zain, do you think age is ever a hindrance to somebody, attaining their goals in life?
Never, I don't think so.
So at 83, someone can still achieve?
Absolutely. I think, look, it depends on what your goals are. I think obviously we have to be realistic in that time is finite. So maybe you may have less time to achieve it, but it's still achievable. It's not something that's based on time. In some cases, it's based on effort and hard work, how much you're willing to do it. Again, your purpose is what will define the amount that you're willing to put in that will be able to give you something out of it, right? So effort may equal to success, right?
Interesting. Okay. We have a good okay. So time is not, age is, they say age ain't nothing but a number.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Do you ever get angry? You know, I've never seen you angry.
You know what? I used to have some let's say, issues of anger, I guess. I think it sounds very extreme.
Okay.
But let's say my level of emotional reactions to things is not as high. So yeah, I used to have that issue of anger, but that's also where I learned that when you're angry, for example, you just want to take something and throw it and get angry and shout at somebody. At the end of the day, like, you're not going to look like a sane person throwing your toys out of the pram, screaming and pointing at people.
I hear you.
Things like that. So I don't believe that anger is a good thing.
So you can control your emotions pretty well.
I like to think so, but I think it's something you learn on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, true that.
Sometimes in business it challenges you.
Yeah. You know, like I mentioned earlier, I love teaching about emotional intelligence. And often at times, the thing that you teach the most or speak about the most or think that you've got it under control the most is the area that you get challenged the most. So I get challenged a lot. Things that really can disturb my emotions. And I remember there was an incident just a couple of days ago. I called the fundi, somebody to come and change the tinted, right?
Yeah.
In my car. And the guy sounded so humble, so nice, and I gave him the work. And that did not end well. Well, it ended, but I ended up shouting at him, shouting big time, to an extent. He said, "Sir, okay, maybe you shouldn't pay me." I didn't do your work properly, so maybe you shouldn't pay me. And then his friend said, "Hey, don't be stupid. Just take the money. What's your problem?"
Yeah.
And I came to realize one of the things that tickles me off when it comes to work is poor communication. Because this guy did something, had he communicated, things would not have turned out the way they turned. And this is something I've observed. It really frustrates me if there is poor communication. Similar patterns have happened in the course of maybe the past 3 weeks, right? Poor communication. What is that one thing that really, turns you off or pisses you off easily when it comes to business and when it comes to, handling people?
Look, I'll say this, right?
Okay.
I think you were looking at it in an external sense, meaning dealing with people outside of your business, right? But for me, I would look at it inside my business.
Right.
So the way that we work in my structures is that I work for the team works for the client, and the client feeds the business.
I see.
So my job is my team.
Okay.
That's what I fully focus on. And so you see, whenever we do interviews, I always ask one question, which is, what do you want to do long term? Because I'm realistic in the sense that somebody who's working with me today may not be with me in 10 years. They may want to move on to a different role. They may want to open their own business. So the capacity that I want to operate in as a manager, let's say, is I want to be able to provide value to them that they can take forward with them. I honestly, generally, and everybody who's worked with me also knows the same principle that I follow. I always want everybody to leave better than when they walked into the office. Recently, I've found myself in a situation where you've got people who don't want to be anywhere and don't want to do much, in the sense that, so what do you want to do? Where do you want to grow after this? What training can I give you? And it's like, I don't know. And that bothers me because it's like, how?
Yeah, how?
It means you've got no purpose. It means you've got no intent. You're not focused, for example, on where you want to be or the things you want to do or what success is or what your purpose is. And I find nowadays people don't really have much of a, let's say, drive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Back to the drive.
I think people are very comfortable. And I always advise, the comfort zone is where your dreams die.
Yes.
You have to get out and
there's no growth in comfort zone.
100%. And so for me, it irks me in the sense that I'm willing to give my experience, not that I'm somebody who's able to train people and whatever it is, but I can help you learn from my experience in dealing with certain things. For example, pitches, right? For example, presentations, for example, dealing with clients, negotiating, things like that, where I have experience. So I'm able to sort of give you that training because I've done it many, many times. But you see, if people are not willing to take that initiative, I always mention to the team that, look, just come to me. I'm not hiding any secrets. Come to me, ask me, and I will tell you. I will break down every business and explain to you how it's done, why it's done, what's the purpose of it, what you need to focus on.
Do people really come?
Honestly, you get a lot of people that do come. You get a lot of people that want to develop. You get people who come in for a sales job and they say, I want to learn, finance, but I didn't have the money to do that course. And I say, look, no problem. I'll get you to sit with the finance team once a week. Let's get you to get that background and that framework, right? And so that's something that we do.
Okay.
But you do get cases in which people don't really know what they want to do, which is okay. It's okay to not have your things figured out, but you have to keep moving forward. Again, like you can't be the same person you are today as you are yesterday. You have to learn and grow and develop because your time is not a guarantee.
I like that because I always say this, we live life on stages and arrive in levels. So each level of life demands us to have a whole new level of maturity, responsibility, wisdom, understanding, emotional intelligence, power, and so forth and so on. It is very dangerous to move to another level of life with the same you of yesterday. Because if I look at Jonathan of 10 years ago, is not the Jonathan that we have today. I've grown tremendously in terms of maturity, responsibility, and all these things, knowledge. So I guess what you're saying is very correct. Each level will demand us to grow and learn new things.
And look, you have to accept things as they are. I mean,
true.
You probably know this is a common fact. It's not something that is a secret for anybody, but the biggest thing people think on their deathbed is regrets.
Regrets,
I should have done this, I should have done that. And it's like, at the end of the day, we have to accept where we are today. We have to accept the mistakes that we've done and stop letting that limit us because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Truly.
Today, we've got life, we've got health, maybe in some cases wealth, but accept where you are, accept I've made mistakes, I've done things wrong, for example. Let that not define me. Let me continue moving forward. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where a lot of people let those mistakes hold them back and put them into the shell. And then many, many years may pass by and they may be on their deathbed and think, oh, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. Like, for example, let's break it down in the simplest way possible. You have people who are afraid of flying, which is a legitimate fear, I suppose, right? Of getting on a plane, right?
True.
And that's fair, right? I'm not going to take away from that, but I'm just going to say that you see the opportunity cost in that regard is that now you miss out on seeing the world and seeing the creations around you.
True.
For example, a beach or a city or whatever it is, right? You miss out on all of that if you let your fear dictate or your mistakes or your preconceived notions dictate, the way forward.
True. You mentioned about flying. I'm not afraid of flying. I am a frequent flyer, but I've never gotten used to taking off and landing. Those are the two most uncomfortable places or moments in my flying. But you know what? For you to fly to your destination, you've got to take off, you've got to land. So at the end of the day, you've got to overcome your fears. You don't have a choice.
I don't mean to put a spiritual lens on this. Okay, this is not a spiritual podcast.
Go ahead.
But obviously, I am a spiritual person. Therefore, some of my ways of operating is through a spiritual lens.
I like that.
And so there's a book that I read that is a religious book. Okay. Wherein the person says that you should imagine, for example, you're driving on a long road and you've got somebody with you and you're just driving and it's dark, it's into the night, and, you're really tired, you've been driving all day, but you don't want to give up control. You don't want to say, hey, you take over and I'll just rest for a little bit.
And you're dozing off.
Yeah, and you're dozing off. And so now you're in a situation where your position is going to get worse and worse because you just keep holding on to that control. Whereas in some cases, the idea that this book was trying to point out is that you should let go of control in some cases because God is the one that may be driving. And who better to be in control of than, God. So in some cases, we also have to accept that, look, let's say you're on the plane, you're afraid of takeoff, you're afraid of landing. You're already on that plane, my guy. It's going to take off, it's going to land. You can choose to let that dictate now how you're going to react. And I get you because I also clench up. Sit back as far as possible, right? But at the end of the day, nothing's going to change the fact that we're going to have to land one day.
True.
You know, you're gonna have to take off one.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take off one
And
day.
so it's one of the situations that you just have to seize. It's a situation in which you are not in control, and you have to accept. I'm afraid. This is an emotional I'm feeling, but I can't control it. I can't do anything about it. Can't run up to the pilot and say, hey, you know, do this.
You know,
just let go.
You just reminded me of something. I remember this one time I was flying with Ethiopian and we were landing into Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and so it was a bumpy landing. As we were descending, it was stormy and the plane was really violently shaking. My brother, I was praying. I thought we were dropping out of the sky, right? And next to me, there was this guy who was sitting, and I think he was praying louder than I was. And so I was closing my eyes and I was holding to the armrests like that. And it was just a very uncomfortable feeling. And then I opened my eyes. I thought I was praying. And I looked at this guy. This guy was praying to an extent he was slapping himself. And I'm like, what is happening? And so I came to realize that reaction is because we were all scared of dying. I mean, we don't have controls. We're not pilots. There's nothing we could do but to pray because we don't want to die. Are you scared of death?
You've opened a can of worms here. So look, death is something that I myself don't quite understand. In that one day you're here and the next day you're not. You know what I mean? And so it's a situation in which it's something that I want to understand better and try and get. And I don't think, you know, no matter how much time you spend on it, you will never fully understand it until you experience it, right?
True.
But at the end of the day, it's valid that you mentioned that that fear of death came into your mind. At the end of the day, the biggest guarantee that anybody has in life is death.
Let me ask you, do you think it's the death we are scared of, or it's the means to the death? It's how we die. Like if you go to sleep, right? You don't think about it. You don't think, oh, I'm not going to wake up in the morning. You don't think like, I'm just going to die in my sleep. But when you go through fire, when something's burning, or when you're in a boat and it's about to capsize, or flight, right? You're about to drop. So is it the fear of death, or is the imagination that if this thing drops out of the sky, I am going to feel the pain and it's going to be so painful and I'm going to die? Well, what do you think it is?
Look, I'm not 100% certain for everybody, but for me, I think it's just the idea of death rather than the means. Because I guess, you know, if you tell me like, hey, Zain, this is your time, I still have, can you give me like 15 minutes to go and do this? Let me go and do that. You know what I mean? Let me say goodbye to a list of people. So it's kind of like, it's a situation where you are just not there anymore. You cease to exist. And I think it's so instantaneous that that's what is the scary part, right? Because you don't have any time left. So maybe it may not be death, it may be the lack of time that you might be afraid of.
I see.
But 100%, and I think death is one of those things that if you accept that as a reality, that it's going to happen. It's everything. You can't run away from it, you know? I think in the past, there were many people, I think, previous civilizations, and they used to perform human sacrifices in order to extend their lives because they assumed that, okay, this will lead to extra years on my life. So if you've got 1 year left, for example, that 1 year now comes to me because I've offered you instantly. You know what I mean? And people, the kings at the time used to believe that was the way forward, you know, and that's how they were doing it. Just imagine how silly that is at the end of the day.
Very silly.
You know, so it's something that since the start of time, everybody has been somewhat afraid of it. And it's something that we need to accept.
Okay.
Yeah. Rujad, what are your views on spirituality?
That's a very good question. Honestly, I'm a spiritual man. And I do believe in a higher power. So obviously I'm a Christian. And sometimes I sit down and think, you know, like when we were growing up, we used to learn about the theories, the evolution theories, and how, you know, from Homo something all the way to Homo sapien, right? And now I have this understanding, and I'm thinking, how, right? I do believe I was created by God, and I have taken after the image and the likeness of God. That's what I do believe. And so obviously I have to worship my Creator, right? And because I was created in the image and the likeness of God, it means I've got God's attributes and characters, right? One of these attributes and characters is creativity, because God is a creator, right? So I have creativity. That's why, you see people, they don't learn anywhere, but someone can draw Zane the way Zane is, and they've never learned it anywhere. That's why I can go into a house and just be creative about it and things like that, and all these inventions and stuff. So I do believe in a higher power. I do believe in God, and I pray to God. And I believe, right, for a human being to succeed in life or to sustain, right, you need to be constantly connected to God, because He's the creator. So it's like, let's say this car, right? The manufacturer of this car intended for this car to perform in a certain way. There is actually a manual for this car, right? It's configuration and stuff like that. Two things happen. If you follow the manual for this car, it means you're going to operate this car optimally. Do you understand? If you don't, second thing is, if you don't follow the manual for this car, you may not even know that this car could actually fly, right? So you'll be operating below your potential. So for as long as you're connected to the manufacturer, and how are you connected to the manufacturer? Through the manual. You are definitely going to perform at your optimal level. And so for me, spirituality is very important. And as a Christian, I do believe the manual is the word of God, right? So for as long as I seek God, I pray, and I read what He says in His word, then I am going to be able to perform and operate optimally, right? In the area that God has called me to do, to accomplish a purpose on this planet Earth. So I do believe life and spirituality go hand in hand. Now, I'm going to ask the same question to you. What are your views on life and spirituality?
Look, I think in life, spirituality becomes a driver for a lot of people, because ultimately, even if you're following different religions or whatever it is, at the end of the day, we all have this core belief that there is a greater power. So number one, the lesson to take from that is humility, right?
Wow.
So that's an important thing.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, because you're accepting that there's a greater power than myself, and you're not about it,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And the second thing to understand, in my opinion, is that generally speaking, most religions focus on your skin of good deeds versus skin of bad deeds. And I think when you start looking at it in that kind of lens, then every action you do, if it's dictated by that, whether I'm doing a good thing or a bad thing, because you have that little voice on the inside, whether you like it or not, it's there, right?
It is.
And so ultimately whether you're doing something that you would consider inherently good or not good. And so those are important things, because maybe in life we don't hit the goals that we want, but as long as we feel like we're doing something good, our religious purpose is then satisfied, right? Because we do that scale.
Yeah.
And so I think it goes in hand in hand, as we mentioned, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned from religion, and there's a lot of things that if you become more, let's say, spiritually aware, it opens your mind up to more things. Like, for example, let's take Wi-Fi. You can't see it, but you know that's there.
It's there.
I'm not bringing a debate of whether religion is real or not. That's for anybody to decide their own values and beliefs. But at the end of the day, if you are looking at something from a religious lens, you're accepting there's a greater power that I cannot see. It's not there. It's judging my sins as to whether they're good or bad or whatever. right? So if you're willing to do that, then you also take a lot of lessons from it. And you also see, like in my religion, for example, we learn that you will see things when it's destined for you to see those things. That veil will be removed from your eyes when it's time for that to be removed. If something is meant to reach you, it will reach.
It will reach you.
At the end of the day, it gives us also a level of confidence and comfort, knowing that whatever is in my plan will happen in my plan, because it's not fully in my control in some cases. It might be in the control of divine powers.
Wow.
And so that also gives you some level of comfort that I'm not hitting my goal today, but I've done something about it, and therefore God's plan will happen, right?
Wow.
I think it's also a dangerous thing in some regards, because some people may take that to mean that, well, I'm religious, so good things should come to me. It's not just like that. You have to also put in the hard work. You have to, for example, put in the effort, get out what you want from it. God is there to support you. You have to support yourself primarily as well.
I like that. I'm glad you mentioned it. Now, this is like a follow-up question. Do you think simply because you're spiritual, you're guaranteed to succeed maybe in your business, or maybe flourish in your business? Do you think that's the case? Or do you really have to, whether you are spiritual or not, your success is not tied to your spirituality?
I don't think the two are tied. I think those are different parts. You have to look at your life perhaps as a pie chart, for example, of religious and your business and your personal and your family. And you need to understand the different things that you need to do for these different pies in this pie chart, right? It's a different level of effort that's required for each segment.
True.
And so I don't think you can club everything together, So I don't think they're interlinked. But I do think in some cases the clarity that you get from one of those cycles, or the peace, for example, that you get from one of those cycles, is something that can also affect the others.
I hear you.
Right?
Interesting.
I think religion is a manuscript in some way, because ultimately all religions tell us to be good. And I think ultimately that's what we need to hear in some cases, because if you are, then that touches the rest of the avenues of life that you're in. Right?
Interesting. Okay, that's very interesting. So as we wind up, I'm gonna let you give your views at the end, but there's one question here I wanted us to discuss, and probably somebody watching us will very much benefit from this question. So what painful lessons did life teach you that you are now grateful for? If there was a lesson that you can pinpoint, very painful, maybe in business, maybe in relationship, someone watching us is heartbroken from a relationship. Somebody else watching us, probably you started business and it collapsed. Maybe your partner cheated on you in terms of business, ran with the entire idea and started another thing. It was just maybe a life-threatening disease, something catastrophic, something huge, but a lesson. It's a painful lesson that happened to you.
Have many painful lessons. Honestly, genuinely speaking, I can't remember all of them.
Okay.
And again, I don't understand.
You're full of scars.
Well, maybe not. Maybe I really don't know.
Okay.
I just don't look back so much.
All right.
I try and look as forward as possible. It's difficult for me to pinpoint something, but I will mention one thing that was a recent discussion between me and a business partner. So we have a marketing company version. It was recently at TZ as well. And we are faced with this AI challenge, wherein whatever we do in terms of marketing, whatever strategy we can propose, AI can do it in 2 minutes. It might take us 2 days to come up with a plan. AI can pretty much fine-tune it. So I sat with my business partner. I said, "No, but what do we do? What's our strategy?" And my business partner said, because he's around 45 years old, and he's been in this industry for a very long time. He said to me, "Look, then, when Photoshop came out, people would look at a Photoshop image and say, yeah, but it's not a real photo, it's still Photoshop." And he said, now people ask the same question, which is, well, it's not a real photo, it's an AI photo. And he said, it doesn't mean the Photoshop was not successful, it was.
It was.
It dictated the feel. So he said that now we can't fight the fact that this is here. We have to accept it and move on. We have to adapt our strategy. This was not part of our plans that AI would be able to generate any ad or any photos or whatever it is. But we have to accept that this is the world that we're in now. And our strategy now needs to dictate how we move forward.
True.
How we overcome this bubble, right? And this issue that it may be. So we sat down and we started to look at different avenues of business, and we tried to understand what can we do better now. And we decided what we're going to do is we're going to invest in opening a printing company. We'll go hand in hand with the marketing company. So marketing is the passion. It's always been a passion for me. Advertising has always been a passion for me. But to sustain that is the printing.
Yeah.
So that allows us to do what we do, right?
Interesting. Okay. Fantastic. So in that very same line, so you shared like a business, from a business point of view. I can share from a life point of view, in the sense that something life-threatening happened to me about 10 years ago. I was involved in a very fatal accident that almost claimed my life. I broke my right leg more than 10 times. I was on a motorbike as a passenger, and I got hit by a high-speeding lorry. So my leg was so badly damaged, so much so that the doctor said it was supposed to be cut, chopped off, amputated. And so my prayer was, I don't want my leg to be chopped off. So they did whatever they could, fixed me with metals. I still have metals to date, and I thank God for that. Now, this was a very painful lesson that I had to learn, and perhaps God allowed me to go through it so that I could appreciate life more. The first thing I learned through this ordeal was God is real and He can be trusted. So the doctors predicted about 2 years of not walking, and 2 years of just bedridden until full recovery. I didn't take up to 2 years. I think I took maybe 8 months up to 1 year. And so only the person who created me could fix those things, and I really thank God for that. But also when the doctors looked at me, they said, how are you still alive? Because they said, based on the impact, as we look at your leg, you should have been dead. You can't go through that impact, and none of your bones is damaged. Your head is intact, your spine is intact, everything, not even my hands, just this leg, of course, with other scratches and bruises. And so they were even shocked. So for me, that was a testament that, God is real. But also I learned that in life, when God loves you, Zain, He gives you people, right? And so I had a lot of people who cared for me, in terms of contributions, the hospital bills and all these things, right? And that led me to the third lesson that I learned: humility. Because the only thing I could do was eat. In fact, I was being fed. So I'd sleep, I would wake up, somebody else would take me to the washroom, people will feed me, So I couldn't do anything by myself. And I noted that I needed people. And so I think it was a lesson that it will stick with me for years to come. The experience might have gone, the pain and everything. Let the bygones be bygones, but the lessons are still intact. When God loves you, He gives you people. The challenge we have, Zain, in today's world, because often at times these people don't come in a gift paper. They just come like ordinary people. You look at them, you despise them because they don't match the standards that you expect. But this is where true humility comes. Because if I have to treat you because you're wearing a suit and you are the CEO, then that's very dangerous. There's a program I used to watch on TV, Undercover Boss. So this boss, the CEO, would visit his plant or his organization, full of makeup and dressed like a beggar, like somebody crazy, and he just wanted to see how would my staff treat me? And here's where you know the real people from, the fake ones. And all of those who treat this person as a human being, regardless of the status and his filth, right? The boss would promote them after the reveal. So this was a very big lesson I learned. Sometimes God allows us to go through certain predicaments so that we can learn how to treat people, so that we can learn to appreciate life, so that we can learn to assist life, and just to know that life is very fragile, carpe diem. Make the most out of every moment that you get.
So first of all, it's a terrible experience that you had, and I do not wish this experience on everyone, but tap into that for 1 second.
Sure.
When that moment happened, did you think to yourself, why me?
Yes, many times, brother, many times.
And you emoted?
Many times.
And it was a difficult time, naturally. I mean, really, I'm sure I was like...
I used to cry throughout the night because the pain was excruciating. The doctors gave me painkillers until he said, I've given you to the max. I can't give you anymore. So just endure the pain.
100%. Now imagine if you could take yourself back as you are now, walk to yourself who's just had that accident, you're laying on that road, and you're talking to yourself and you're telling yourself, listen, dude, it's gonna be okay. You'll be fine. Look, this is me in the future. You'll be okay. Imagine the amount of confidence you would have had going through. You would have gone through the pain the same way that you would have, but you would have known at the end of it, you'll be fine.
The future is promising.
Issue is when people have problems or when people experience an issue, they assume this is the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. There's a day where you walk out of it, literally in your case.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
There is. And if you sort of let that dictate your reactions, I guess, and if you emote so heavily that it takes away from who you are and takes away from your faith that everything will be okay, then that will damage yourself, nobody else.
I see. That's powerful. Wow. That's good, man. Yeah, so this was a wonderful conversation with my dear brother Zane. Now, we're going to end in style. So, Zane, if there is one thing you've got to tell people on that camera, somebody's listening to you. You know how people, this generation is very much a microwave generation. So they'll probably skip this entire conversation to the very end. So let them see the 1 minute ending from Zane as your final charge.
Honestly, look, stop comparing yourself to others, accept where you are. Let's not get into the reasons as to where you are and why you are where you are. Accept that this is where we are at the end of the day. And just find the solution for it. Everything is in your hands. The answer is in your hands. So just find the solution for it as to what it is that you need to do to achieve this purpose that you've set out and to make you successful according to your own terms. You know? That's the only thing. Don't compare yourself to people you see online.
Don't compare yourself to anybody. Comparison is the #1 killer. And if you're that person, didn't watch through and you are right at the end, this is for you. Get to know your purpose. The very reason why you were created, the very reason why you exist. Get to know why you are here. And then do it. Know your purpose, then do it. Know your why and do it. By so doing, you'll be fulfilling your God-given mandate here on planet Earth. Until next time, thank you very much. This is Jonathan, this is Zane, and this is Life with Jonathan and Zane. Cheers.